Okay, bed check. How's it looking? Today I'm going to go through my favorite arm balances. Now these are things that either you specifically go for. So someone might train towards a air baby or a QDR or a croc or something like that. Other things really come for free when you're working other calisthenics, strength skills and hand balancing. But I'm going to cover my favorite ones today. Sometimes I program them. Jesus, it's windy here. Sometimes I program them specifically for people if they've got gaps in their training or if they have a goal, say like a handstand push-up or something, and they're not quite there. We might use something like a crow to handstand, or starting hand balancing. Might start with some easier arm balance to understand those basic fundamentals of balance. Okay, let's jump in. I'm going to start roughly with the easy ones because I'm not warmed up, so I'm going to slowly go from easy to harder. So where most people will start with is the basic crow position. Take the head down towards the floor. Lift the toes up when you feel the balance. So a big mistake a lot of people make when they're first learning this is this. So they don't take enough weight forwards and then they try and jump into the position. You want to do with any of these arm balances, you want to feel the point where you get the seesaw, you get the same amount of weight on either side of the base of support, and then you can lift up and come into that crow position. So I get very comfortable with that. You should be able to go in and out of the crow from above. So something like this, lower down into it. We should be able to go from below, so down here, and then raise up into it. And we should be able to seesaw, so move the weight down. So I'm taking the head down towards the floor, kiss the floor, come back out, slowly go back to a squat, and play with that, so be able to go between the two. So a good one to play with the crow is to start to increase the weight into the shoulders and the arms, decreasing the weight into the legs. That way you can go to single leg variations very easily, and you can go things like up into handstand. So how I'm shifting the weight forwards, putting more weight into the arms and the shoulders by pushing, and then I can lift the leg much easier because I've got way more weight in my arms than I have in my legs. Once we've got that, we can mess around with that crow position. I can go to straighter arms, so straighter arm position. Notice when I go into this, especially because I haven't really warmed up, I'm going to take my fingers to the side. It's a little bit easier. The external rotation makes you stronger with most things. Knees a little bit higher. The opposite to that would be to go as low as you can. Now with this one, I'm going to take the elbows more to the hips, so there. Now most people's legs are longer, so you'll have to move your knees out to the side. And then a fun one is to go from that highest crow position that you can do, and then lower down, passing your crow, finishing in that squished crow position at the bottom. Now there are side crow variations where you take the elbow down to the thigh, so there. Now most people work in the crow will eventually want to go towards an air baby. Now one thing you need to understand is that an air baby is very different than a single leg crow. So a single leg crow, you keep everything sort of square, transfer the weight to the hands and the shoulders and lift the leg. Where the air baby, there's a little bit more rotation. So to learn the air baby, you really need to come in a bit more from the side or a bit of an angle. Okay, now a headstand should be quite a simple one for most people. Obviously we can use wall assist and things if we need to, either with chest to wall or back to wall. Majority of the headstand variations that you do will be more putting weight into the hands and the shoulders, less weight into the head, unless you're specifically going to head balance, which is something different. I'm not going to teach head balance. I only know at a very limited level. So triangle position, again, I'm going to go external rotation. I use these variations, especially when teaching like handstand push-ups and things. So forehead to the floor, stepping into it. There, so I've still got lots of weight in the hands and the shoulders. Okay, now forearm stand. So some options with the forearm stand. The one I would try and get people to do to start with is to try and make a square with their hands. So, and their arms. So I've got hand, elbow, elbow, hand in that position. So like that. You can put hands together more like the yoga version. So gripping the hands together like this. You could have a yoga block between your hands. You could balance with the thumbs upwards or down. I would just play around with changing the base of support. You can have hand down, forearm down. You could do bent arm there. And you could play around with different transitions in and out of those. Again, same as the headstand. Use the wall, back to wall, chest to wall, feet on the couch to slowly build the confidence and control. Okay, going towards peacock position now. So peacock, another yoga pose, normally is taught with the fingers backwards. So in this position, elbows into the hips. You could start in this bent knee position, which is a bit like that squash crow position we done at the start. Or we could go straight into a straddle position. So legs out. Now with this one, it's all about reaching forwards with the head and shoulders and then allowing the feet to go backwards to counterbalance what's in front and behind. And then eventually go into straight body position. For this one, I'm going to take my fingers out to the side. You could practice this with toes on the floor. You could practice it with head on the floor. And then eventually try and seesaw between the two so you're in that straighter position. And then it's going towards more of a crocodile position, so like a single arm elbow lever. So I'd learn this one in a very similar way. Fingers out to the side. I'd take the other hand out and then taking the elbow towards the midline. So here, with this one, I'm trying to keep the hips facing down towards the floor. Now I can take weight to the feet, or I could take weight to the hand or head. And again, obviously the goal is to get just the arm balancing. So we can go fingertips and start reaching away with the other hand. So one finger and then lift. Notice how I'm trying to extend and lengthen the body and keep it as one segment as much as possible. Now QDR is very similar, but now we're balancing more on the hip and we have more of a twisted sideways movement. So with this one, whether you're in a tuck position, a straddle position, or a straight position, we want to be thinking about having hand, elbow, hip, hip. So a good way of learning it is to be in this tuck position. I'm going to twist, take my hip to my elbow, which is on top of my hand, and then I lift up there. Obviously doing both sides. And then you can just start to fan the legs out and open up. So top leg goes over, lift the shoulder as much as you can. This hand comes further away. You go fingertips and then eventually lift up. Harder version of the QDR would be to make the body straight. The same principles apply. And then once you have the movements, you can start to put them together with your handstand practice and start to intertwine them into combinations. So I could do something like crow to handstand, lower to one arm, forearm, to croc, to QDR, to peacock. So hopefully that's given you some insights on what arm balances and things you want to start to play with. If there's any specifics or any questions that you have, stick them in the comments below. I have made some tutorials on some of those movements as individuals. I'll go into a little bit more detail, but let me know if you're interested in anything else. Normal deal, thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.